I'm a record. Cool beans. Hello, people. Thanks for hopping on. This is our second live. Last live, no one came. I was like, low key, no, I'm kidding.
Oh,
No, I'm
sorry, but
actually one person ended up coming, but they were super late. So I was just like doing the recording and they're like, oh, they hopped on. And so it was great. But every week we're gonna go live in here, talk about various different topics, varying from health to drugs to anything to life to relationships, whatever. Because all it is really important in our well-being and navigating being a human on this earth. So we're talking about sleep today. Has either of you listened to the podcast about sleep?
I
I did
actually didn't
not.
get a chance to yet, but that's on my to-do list.
Well, balls,
Yeah,
eh? The point was to listen to it and come here with questions. No, I'm
before.
kidding. So, all right. Well, we'll just like chat about, I think I would love to hear about your individual sleep routines, and then I can chat about ways to improve it, ways to tweak it, and then I'll talk about some of the topics in the podcast. But if you do go to that, there's a lot of good tips in the podcast. So either of you can kind of dive into your sleep
Mhm.
routines and maybe some of the things you're having challenges with when it comes to sleep.
I have mine written down, so it's what I need improvements on, I would say, is the consistency of my sleep schedule and my waking up routine and like waking up feeling energy instead of waiting like 4 or 5 hours to like feel like I've woken up. So I feel very groggy in the mornings. But like I was saying previously in your DMs, I can go to sleep like that. So that's something that's working for me. My current cycle is a no alarm lifestyle. Just because I've been in between jobs and things, and so I go to sleep when I want and I wake up when I want. But that can turn into staying up till 4 in the morning and sleeping till 1 in the afternoon, and then it's dark at 4 p.m. So for seasonal like depression reasons, I feel like I need to be up earlier to get some more daylight in me.
Mm.
Yeah, and then I would say like don't usually have a problem falling asleep. Like I can usually fall asleep pretty quickly. I actually recently quit smoking weed, so I was smoking weed almost every single day for like probably 8 years. It was a big thing for me, and I was really reliant on it. I'd kind of quit periodically in the past for like 2 or 3 months, and I was going through these cycles of like waking up at 3 in the morning, just not having a consistent sleep cycle. So I felt for a really long time that I was reliant on weed to be able to sleep, and that was just sort of this idea that I had in my mind. I recently quit, so I've been off weed for like 2.5 weeks now, which is amazing, and I really don't want to start smoking weed anymore. So yeah, I'm stoked for that. But I do find like I have a kind of a similar thing to you where it's like in the morning, I struggle to have a morning routine. I do feel really groggy. And as much as I'm like, I'm going to do this in the morning, like I'm going to wake up and I'm going to journal and I'm going to eat my food, it's like by the time I do wake up, I'll hit my alarm 5 times and I'm rushing to get out the door. And I think that's really where I'm struggling is having consistent morning routine and having the energy to actually follow through with that.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing, guys. Um, some similarities in both of you, which is great. I just want to ask some clarifying questions. Breezy,
Mhm.
so you mentioned, do you want to use an alarm or do you want like what's ideal for you and kind of like your sleep routines? Do you want to wake up earlier without an alarm or do you want to use an alarm?
I used to be a morning person, like naturally kind of joyful in the morning. And I think that was back in high school when I had the routine of going to bed around 10 p.m. My friends, if I would invite them over at 8 or 9, I would pre-warn them, like, I will fall asleep on you. Just see your way out past 10. I'm going down. Um, so yeah, I also like when or if I have an alarm, I will not snooze. I know snooze is so trash that I just need to set an ideal like alarm in the morning, but that comes with a bedtime need so that I'm getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yes,
Hard.
I do want an alarm. I'm thinking when I'm on my vacations and stuff, it'll be easier to get up out of bed to go and lay on a beach. But for now, I could probably use a forcing myself out of bed alarm to be productive.
Yeah, I mean, so you can go either way. This goes for either of you. I think, and I'll explain a little bit more, but the main thing is to get something that's going to get you up and excited in the morning. And whatever that comes up for you, like it's going to be something, and it doesn't have to be like something like quote unquote productive, like whatever makes you happy or whatever like gets you excited. I always use this example with my clients. It's like if you're going to be going to Las Vegas tomorrow morning and you had to get up at 4 a.m., you'd be
Mhm.
hella excited. You'd be like, oh my God, we're going to Vegas. You're like, getting ready. You're like, oh my God, I can't wait to be in the pool, shaking my booty. And like, you're just so
Mhm.
excited. And you don't care about like getting up at 4 a.m. because like you're going to Vegas. You know what I mean? And it's like, you get up to go to Vegas, and let's say your flight got canceled or your flight got moved and it's just going the next day. Like it's the idea of the thing you're doing that makes you excited, that makes you feel like, oh my gosh, like we're doing this, right? So I just take that example and like bring it to your daily life. And maybe it's not going to Vegas, which is obviously not realistic, but it's like, what are the things you can do in your morning, in your days that help you feel that like, oh my God, excitement, you know? And it can be little, like the small things in life that you appreciate. For me, obviously, it's dancing. Like I have a morning dance party every day, and I look forward to it every day. So I wake up really super
Mhm.
excited for that. But it's like whatever works for you, and knowing that this might take some time, right? To get out of your old habits and into your new routine. But that doesn't mean it has to take a long time. I think we can get into this idea that, it needs to take a long time for me to build habits. But you'd be surprised at how fast your brain can switch when you actually understand some of the things that really help your brain feel motivated and feel excited. So that's the first thing I would say, do something in the morning that doesn't feel like a chore. You know what I mean? Like Alishani, you mentioned maybe you want to journal, which is great if you do truly want to, but I know many people, hi Margot, and some of you can relate maybe. They feel like the morning to-do list and their, morning routine ends up being a chore. They're like, oh, I have to journal and I gotta meditate and I gotta stretch and I got this and I got that, and it ends up being this like long to-do list where you're actually like, I don't even want to do all these things. Like, why I have to do all these things that are going to take me an hour or whatever, right? And so I think it's not putting any restrictions on what you have to do in the morning. And it's like, what do you want to do in the morning? Okay, so that's the first piece there. Let me know how that lands, how y'all feeling about that.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I think that's like changing the perspective on it is huge. It's kind of like what you said. It does feel like I have this to-do list basically of things that I feel like I should be doing. And like, yeah, changing the perspective on it is definitely really good.
Yeah, exactly. And so what kind of comes up for you? Like what are some things that you would want to do in the morning that make you feel like a little bit more excited?
I would say like personally yoga. Like I love doing yoga. And a part of it too, I think like what you said is moving your body. I think I always put yoga sort of at the back. For some reason, it's just not my number one, but it's something that I really definitely love to do. So that was sort of the first thing that popped up in my mind.
Oh, we love that. So it's yoga for you, which is great. How about you, Breezy?
Something to get excited for in the mornings. I think I've been kind of doing this. The mornings where I feel really great, I've gone just immediately into a shower. Just start with shower, and then I'm like, I just feel better to be able to focus on my other needs. Um, yeah.
Love that. Okay, shower. And Margot, if you want to share kind of, I'm not sure if you heard the whole spiel, but what are some of the things you want to do in the morning that make you feel like you're looking forward to doing it?
Hi. Yeah, sorry I joined a bit late.
All good.
But yeah, I personally love stretching. I like I like to do yoga, but I like to call it stretching instead because yoga always feels like maybe it's too much.
Mhm.
Um, so that and then journaling too, or just kind of writing out just anything that's going on in my mind as soon as I wake up because I tend to have a brain that just starts going and going. So just writing if that's a to-do list or something I dreamed about or whatever.
Yeah, I love that. Perfect. And one thing to know, I think it's so important because I've been in the like mindset, personal development world for so long. And for a long time, I got stuck in this morning routine that had to be this and this and this and this and this. And I'd be there like, okay, I gotta do this. Oh my God, I gotta do that. And if I didn't do something, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm doing it wrong. Oh my gosh, am I gonna have a good day? I was like so anxious about my morning routine. And I was like, wait, this is not promoting my well-being. And so when I learned more about the mind and the subconscious mind and like how we create habits, it just made more sense to like do something that I truly want to do, not because some guy in this book told me I had to meditate. You know what I mean? So I just want to share that because all you have different things that make you feel like you want to do them in the morning. I think that's beautiful. So yeah, those are the things you're gonna be excited about and like look forward to now. So before you go to bed, what you need to do is to kind of plant in your brain what you're gonna do in the morning. For example, Alishani, you mentioned that you hit snooze a lot, right? And that's a lot of people do. So one thing is setting yourself up to tell yourself that I'm not going to hit snooze because I'm going to get up and do yoga because I love doing yoga. And when you tell yourself that, your brain's like, oh, yeah, like we want to do yoga. That makes sense. So we're not going to hit snooze. And it's going to be like a narrative that you get the shift and your brain's going to be on board because it's something you actually want to do, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, perfect. So what I always do the night before, and I just like tell myself like what I'm gonna do in the morning. And you wouldn't believe how crazy, like the brain and the body are absolutely incredible. And every like I'll tell myself, and this will be different times. Like I'll be like, okay, tomorrow morning we're waking up at 5:15. And we wake up at 5:15 without the alarm. And another day I'll be like, okay, well, we're waking up at 6 a.m. because maybe I went to bed at a different time, whatever. And we wake up at 6 a.m. And like every time I tell my body what time we're waking up, I speak in we's because I believe like it's me, myself, my higher self. Like it's not just me, like we're doing this together. But I don't know, I speak in we's. And so every time I tell myself we're waking up at a certain time, it happens. And I'm like, oh my God, like it worked. I'm like, oh my God. So just like play around with that for yourself. Like really set intentions and be like, okay, we're doing this and you're going to get up. And then when you do that, or when it does improve, even like the little wins along the way also count, then you can tell yourself like, oh my gosh, look, we got up earlier. We only hit snooze once. We got up for the shower, you know, we stretched, whatever. And you kind of tell yourself like, that was great. We did that. And that kind of reinforces that habit for yourself. Hi, Margaret. How's that sound? Great. Amazing. Now, what else? Yeah, I think that was anything else coming up for you. I think in terms of getting up, all those are really going to help you guys. Was there anything else that came up? Anything else y'all want to ask?
I have a quick question regarding that. Do you have any tips for avoiding going on your phone first thing in the morning? Because I find like I will pick up my phone and then start scrolling through Instagram and suddenly like half an hour has gone by and I'm not out of bed.
Man. I drained 4 hours because I do the phone right before I even get out of bed to pee. And I'm like, whoops.
Yeah.
I just wrote down things I can do. And I said, put my phone on the other side of the room might get me out of bed because it'll be making noise over there. And then once I'm standing, I feel like I'll stay standing maybe.
Exactly. That really helps too. But to avoid the scrolling and like the checking, there's a couple pieces here. Like the mindset piece is like kind of understanding how I view this. And this really changed my perspective. It's like, why am I giving my phone energy when I deserve my energy in the morning? And especially 15 minutes, about 10 to 15 minutes after you wake up is when your brain is most susceptible and your brain is most malleable, like most receptive to anything you tell it, anything that we're consuming, anything that we are, being exposed to, because our subconscious mind is still in its like waking up stages. The brain waves are coming into consciousness. And just in that gap, we're super, that's also where we can manifest really powerfully, where we can like implant certain beliefs and like ideas into our brain. And so that's like prime time. And that also happens before we go to bed, right? So before you go to bed and in the morning after you get up, that's like golden minutes of like who I want to become and what I want to consume and being really intentional during that time. So for me, it's like, why am I going to waste my golden minutes on my phone, scrolling Instagram, watching random people's stories when I could be telling myself positive things, working on my confidence, moving my body, loving myself, stretching, because you deserve that self-love. And like, for me, it's such a non-negotiable because like, I deserve that time. Does that make sense? So that's like my mindset shift, because the phone is not going to help me with my goals and like my mindset and my self-worth and the things that I'm working on. So that's the mindset shift there. But in terms of tactical things, just putting your phone on airplane mode, turning off your notifications, putting it across the room on the other side, right, is really powerful as well. And then just just like putting it down and being like, okay, after you turn off your alarm or whatever, and you just say, this is my time to do XYZ. This is my time to prioritize that. And then I'm gonna feel better. The one thing is you're going to want to check the phone because it's a dopamine release and our brain wants dopamine, but there's so many other ways we can release dopamine in our mornings, through movement, through positive affirmations, through music, through doing things that make you feel good, through like visualization. Like there's so many healthier ways to get dopamine in the body versus checking the phone. And so I'm not sure how that landed for you, but that's like my 2 cents there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that about like the few minutes in the morning where your brain's more receptive. That's really interesting. So I feel like even just knowing that, hopefully I'll be able to, wean myself off going on my phone in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like being intentional. Like I always talk about this. It's like the moments where you're doing something and it's like, I know I'm not scrolling, like I'm not supposed to be scrolling or whatever. It doesn't make you feel good. Or I always ask myself, it's like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I on my phone? And just bringing that awareness, it's like, do I need to be on my phone right now? A lot of times it's no. Like, what am I actually doing here? You know? And I ask myself that multiple times a day when I'm in the kitchen, when I'm looking for food, when I'm, scrolling, when I'm distracting myself on Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, what am I doing here? Is there an intention? Like what? And so just like rechecking yourself and being like, hey, I actually want to be doing this instead. This is what's going to help support my well-being and my habits, blah, blah, blah. And obviously sometimes you're going to be like, I just actually want to scroll, and that's fine too. But more often than not, I find we'll see that a lot of things that we do aren't really intentional, and we want to actually do the things we said we were going to do, right? So, but yeah, keep telling yourself that, keep doing it. It's going to happen. It's going to keep implanting that. But yeah, those minutes are super crucial for rewiring the brain and like a lot of things to do with mindset and manifestation and stuff. They talk about that a lot in those worlds. So yeah, hope that helped. Any other questions? Anything else that came up? Margaret, you want to say anything or ask anything?
Do you know, I'm curious, I have a bad bedtime routine of wanting to snack. Like, do you know an ideal like time cutoff or anything like that? Because I know one time I had like a very sweet like bread before bed, and just the trippiest dreams. I was having dance parties. I was not calming down, and I just didn't like that very much. So yeah, if you have any advice on late night snacking, I have the issue, and it is also correlated to enjoying marijuana for my nighttime routine because it does help put me to sleep, but also I've been iffy about using it for that and using it in general. So yeah, any
Yeah,
munchy
that's
late
really
night
good.
munchy tips?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. So one thing I will say that came up is that maybe if you do maybe want to use, and this is something that I believe you don't need, but obviously you're transitioning. Instead of smoking weed, maybe try CBD oil because you can still get the benefits without getting the munchies and the high and the idea. So it really helps your sleep still, the CBD without the THC, because then you can
still ritual of having a puff and then going to bed, but it's not going to engage the munchies because it's a different kind of substance. That's smart. Yeah, exactly. I do like CBD. Yeah, it does work.
Yeah, exactly. And even trying to find certain, I know they have with a CBD oil, or maybe they even have certain strains that like with sleep specifically. So if that's like something you can look into as well. And when it comes to well, if the hunger is way the munchies, the only solution there really is to not have the THC part of the weed, because it's pretty hard to like. I was gonna say like, oh, we can
deny it.
Yeah, it's because I smoke weed. Like it's really hard to not eat when you're high. Super challenge. Now the other option is to have just healthier options in the house for those snacks. If you are gonna have cheese, but I do suggest you try the CBD instead. And then another reason we might get hungry in the evening is because we're not actually eating enough. specifically enough
Yeah.
protein or fiber during the day. So I would encourage you to just like look at your meals and see if you're eating enough protein or fiber during the day, and like
Yeah.
eating filling, satiating, like whole food based meals. And then you're not going to be as hungry in the evening. You mentioned a question about the cutoff time. You know, there's different numbers that people throw around in the health space, you know, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Um, I say between 2 and 4 hours, ideally, you know, depending on the day. Now, of course, things fluctuate. Even for me, like it fluctuates every day. That's okay. But yeah, maximum, like ideally 2 hours before bed. Don't have anything ingested, like eaten, ideally 3 or 4. So that's the timing there. And was there another question there?
No, just but like any other healthier practices around it. And yeah, I totally get sometimes you're eating because you want to, and maybe just checking in, being like, are you hungry? Did
Yeah.
you eat dinner? Do you need dinner or do you just want a munchie? Because yeah,
Yeah.
if I don't feel like I need to eat, then maybe I can just be like, you don't need it preteen.
Exactly. And that's a really good point too.
Plan a really delicious breakfast to be excited to wake up for instead.
Yeah, exactly. That's so good. And
Smart.
yeah, if you realize that you don't really need it, like there's nothing wrong with not eating in the evening if you've had dinner or whatever. Like I think a lot of times we are very privileged in this society to like, oh, I need a midnight snack. I need to eat and I need to eat. And I'm actually reading a book called Outlive, which is about the science of longevity. And it's really like we don't need to eat all the time. Like
We've been overeating as a species for
yeah, like
sure.
we can go like an evening without eating. We'll be fine. It's actually really good for our bodies to not eat. Like fasting for a longer period of time is really supportive in some contexts, not all the time. But yeah, I think we think like, oh my God, we need to eat. And I just like we're gonna survive. We'll be fine. We are abundant. We have food all the time. Like, so just like remembering that it's okay if and being that feeling of hunger will pass in like half an hour or whatever, like we'll survive. So just want to mention that too.
Yeah. Drink some water.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, also a
Oh,
lot of people I find don't actually know when they're really hungry or not, because I remember a time when you used to have something to eat in the morning that would keep you going till 1 o'clock, but now people are snacking at 10, 11 o'clock. You see kids, parents are constantly giving them apples, this and that. And you know, you can train your children not to, because children just say they're hungry even when they're not, because they don't know whether they're hungry or not. They just see food and they just say, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. A lot of times you give them water to fill them up and then give them another couple of hours. They've forgotten about the food, but because it's there or they see it, they think, I want it, I want it. Just like when they go to the shop for the first time, they just want everything they see, don't they? Whether it's sweet, a toy, or whatever, and you see the kids get into a tantrum. But I think if the parents prepare them before and say, right, you're going to see a lot of stuff today, but you don't have to be overwhelmed by it. You don't have to be in a mood or whatever. But parents don't talk to the children about that. And then they get in there like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this. And then parents don't know what to do. And then there's the tantrums and all that. And I think it's like that with us. We need to prepare ourselves and recognize that this time of the year, there's lots of adverts. There's this, there's that. Everyone's telling you need to buy this, you need to buy this, or that. And then people make you feel bad because you haven't got the latest phone, you haven't got this. My friend was telling me he was trying to get his daughter a Nokia. She went, Nokia, I wouldn't be seen dead with a Nokia. I need to have so and so. And I'm thinking, well, that's all very well if she wants that, but what's she going to do to get it? Is she that desperate for it? She needs to do something to get it. Don't just give it to her just because she wants it. You know, and they're talking about getting her stockings as well. I'm thinking, what's this stocking nonsense? I've never had a stocking in my life. I get 1 or 2 presents, that's it. What's this stocking filler nonsense? You know, all this extra stuff. It's like you're trying to buy all this stuff to make up for the time you don't spend with her or whatever you think she's missing. And I think that's the way it is with food as well. We try and fill ourselves up with food and stuff, and either because we don't want to get into long conversations about maybe difficult that we're having, so we fill it up with food or buying and stuff, and that's a stuff of nonsense, you know. A lot of times I've been around to people's house, they keep saying, "Look up to you, what did you want this?" I'm like, "No," and they're like, "Oh, don't you like my food?" I said, "I'm just not hungry. Why is that a problem for you?" You know. Do you want 3 or 4 times? You want? I said no. How many times do I have to say no before you accept? I mean what I say. You know what I mean? And they try to make you feel guilty, like, oh, you don't like my food. That's nothing to do with that. I'm just not hungry. You know, and I think we've got to get back to listening to our body. The amount of food that sometimes I waste, where someone's given me something and I think I don't really want it, but then you think, oh, you don't want to offend them, so you take it. And it's nonsense, isn't it? You know, this thing we put around food put so much importance on food, and a lot of the times we just waste so much of the food when really sometimes it's just nice to sit and have a chat with someone. Don't need to have food all the time, you know. I mean, yes, it's nice to for someone to offer you if you want a drink or something, but this keep pushing food on you all the time. I'm thinking, no wonder so many of us are always overweight, and wonder we can't shift it because we don't know how to say no. You know,
Mm,
I'm just not that hungry, thank you. I've just eaten, you know. And
yeah.
sometimes now when I go out, I deliberately fill myself up. So when I go to someone's house, I can confidently say, no, I don't want it because I am full, rather than feel like I have to eat it just to be sociable or just not to upset the person. You know what I mean? I mean, am
Yeah.
I the only one
Yeah.
that thinks this or what?
Good. You brought up a lot of good points. Thanks for sharing, Margaret. And I think it's a lot of points there, but the biggest thing is, and I'm a big intuitive eater and I believe in listening to your body, but a lot of us don't understand our hunger cues and our fullness cues. And depending on how you were brought up, when you were a kid, maybe you overate a lot and things like that. So I think just coming back to, am I actually hungry? And then your body will tell you when you're full, when you're eating, and stopping when you're full. And the more you do this, you can kind of tune into, okay, am I actually hungry? Like when you get hungry at night, or am I bored, or am I sad, right? Or am I XYZ? Like emotional eating is huge too. So, just like checking in with yourself, like often, right? Like, am I actually hungry? Am I feeling sad? What do I actually need, right? Because there's often a deeper level that we need to fill. And maybe it presents as food or as, going to weed or going to this or going to that. But like, what's a deeper emotional thing that we need to address? And that's another topic. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Anything else around sleep and habits? And hey, anyone else? And Margot, do you listen to the podcast yet?
It's a Spotify link, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's on Spotify. I'm not sure what link you're talking about, but
Spotify's where to find it.
Hi.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm multitasking right now because I'm moving.
Oh,
I'm packing some stuff. But yeah, the podcast. I haven't listened to it yet. It's on Spotify?
yeah. And I also sent the link out in an email, and it's also but it's my latest podcast episode on on the episode on the sleep episode on the podcast. But it just talks about
Okay.
deeper into sleep and some of the things that we kind of touched on today, but talks about the mindset, the narrative, and like positioning and like shifting how you think about sleep, and then the evening habits and your morning routine. So some of the things we talked about today. So yeah, I think
Okay, great.
just listening to that will be very helpful for all of you to improve your sleep. And then knowing that it comes with time and it comes with practice and like really shifting your beliefs around that. And one thing I do want to say is that for me personally, and a lot of sleep experts and biohackers are going to say, oh my God, like that's not true. What are you saying? But like, I really believe from my experience, you don't need to go to bed at the same exact time every night. They say, oh yeah, make sure you go to bed at the same exact time. You do this, right? And as someone that I have a life, I go in the evenings, I go networking events, I party, I go to the club, like I'm doing something all the time. Like it's really in the evening I'm at home, or then tonight. Actually, even tonight I'm going to friends, but like, so I'm going to come home at whatever time. And for me, it's not about the time you go to bed, but it's the consistency of doing your routine before you go to bed and when you get up. Because this is how I look at it. Our brains aren't wired by time, they're wired by triggers. And triggers allow your brain to be like, oh, this is what we do here. And then the pathway gets like released. It's like a domino effect. That's not time dependent. For example, when you're tying your shoe, do you have to tie your shoe at a certain time? Do you forget how to tie your shoe at 2 p.m.? No, your brain's like, oh, we're tying our shoe, and you can do it without thinking. That's the same thing with anything that actually our brain does. It doesn't need a time. It needs a sequence and a trigger. And so that's the same with sleep. So it's not about going to bed at that time. It's about doing XYZ. So your brain knows, oh, it's sleep time, and getting yourself to that brain wave so you can go to bed and have a nice restful sleep. This is actually why I sleep really well at festivals, because I don't have to go to bed X amount of time, because my brain knows like if I'm going to do this and this and this. And also my sleep isn't like as good as at home, obviously, but I still sleep pretty well at festivals and when like I'm out doing all the things, because my brain knows like, oh, it's sleep time because we did XYZ. So like it's the ingrained pattern in our brain, and that's what we need to get really consistent. So that's what I want to share there.
That's really interesting, and thank you for sharing that because I've always thought that like you need to go to bed at the same time, wake at the same time, your circadian rhythm, and I'm the same. Like my lifestyle is just not like doesn't condone that because I'm just always doing something different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's really good to know. And also curious, what do you do for your nighttime routine?
Yeah, good question. I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to touch on. So it is important to your circadian rhythm, but for me, it's like, it really depends on what you value. Like some biohackers are like, I must get this 100%. I must go to bed at 10. So I get all of this hormone released at this time. And then I get it. Like for me, I'm like, I'd rather enjoy my life and maybe I'll get 10% less hormone. I'm still going to be fine because I do so many other things for my health. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's like the give and take of that certain habit. It's like if I don't go to bed at 10 p.m. every night, I'm not going to get the exact hormone release at that time. Do I care that much? No. You know what I mean? So it's really about what you care about.
Right.
Yeah, if you're really into like people get extreme with this and they really want that last drop of that hormone. I'm like, you do your thing. Like that's amazing for you. Um, in terms of my evening routine, so it actually changes every night depending on what I'm doing and depending on how I feel. I'm very intuitive with my routines with my entire life, actually, or I try to be. So I have like a toolbox of things that I would like to do. For example, stretch, meditate, journal, read, listen to music. But depending on how I'm feeling, how late it is, what I'm doing, I might only stretch, or I might only read and meditate, or I might only journal. And maybe I have nothing to journal about, so I won't journal. So it's kind of like asking my body when it's like bedtime. I turn off my lights. I do like, I explained this in the podcast, but I turn off my lighting. I put on some like chill music and I put on blue light blockers and like no phones, things like that. And I'm like, cool, what do you want to do to wind down? And sometimes it'll be a stretch. Sometimes it'll be a yoga or whatever, yoga pose, or sometimes it'll be the journaling. And it's whatever my body needs at that time to calm down. If I had a stressful day, it might be journaling, right? If I kind of just want to chill, I might be just laying on the floor and doing a couple stretches. But it's whatever my body feels like. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thanks.
I think also something came up for me when you were talking about wanting to still enjoy your life and have good bedtime routine. I guess if your routine is very important to you, it makes you kind of think like, is this event or seeing this person worth staying up for? And then, you can kind of weigh it out and maybe it's not worth messing up your bedtime for.
Yeah, that's a
But
great
if it's worth it, then do it because
Mhm.
there's a reward from it. Whereas if
Yeah.
you're going to some place, there's going to be an after party situation and it's going to destroy your next day, maybe you should just go to bed at 10 or whatever you had set up.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Actually
Is
ties
it
in.
going to fill your cup or is it going to take from you?
Yeah. Yeah. So glad you brought that up because it is like different events, different situations will make you feel differently. And you're like, okay, well, if I go to this, like, is that going to actually add to my life? Am I going to feel better? Like, am I going to be nourished and fulfilled, or am I going to be drained and like stay up really late and be, peer pressured into drinking or doing drugs or whatever, depending on the environment. But yeah, so I think it's like kind of picking and choosing when you do decide to mess up your routine or like shift your rhythm. I actually had a conversation with a bunch of friends. I'm in like a local like biohacking group in Vancouver actually, and we talked about this, and it was funny hearing everyone else's response. But they were like, "Yeah, is this worth my shift in my rhythm, or is it worth my lack of sleep or affecting my sleep habits?" And some things are going to be worth it. Like for me, festivals are always worth it. Like going out to shows of my favorite artists are always worth it. We're seeing a friend I haven't seen in a long time, where we have like really great conversation. We're laughing and we're connecting because we often forget that these things also help our health, like laughter, being around people that you love, like dancing, connecting, like that part of being a human also needs to be addressed. So maybe you're missing out on sleep, but you're getting all this other beautiful nourishment and getting your cup filled from the friends, from the music, from the love, from the food. And that's really powerful too, because connection is one of the main things that help bring us joy as a human. So yeah, good point. Awesome, fam. I love how this conversation has really tapped on so many different things. Is there anything else that comes up for y'all? If not, we're going to do like a little bit of workshopping because I want these sessions to be really tangible and really actionable for you guys to take away and implement that tonight. And then you're going to see some shifts because I actually had someone implement this, a couple of these tips like a month ago. And she was like, yo, my God, like I slept way better. She's like, oh my God. And I was like, how do you do that? She's like, you're a magician. I'm like, I'm not.
Oh, you're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah, you're a wizard. She's like, it's magic. I'm like, no, it's just like how the brain works. It's like normal. But
Science.
it's science. All right. So is there any last questions? Is everyone good? Everyone feels solid?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for hopping on, fam. So basically, we're gonna work together and I want you to just write down. You can kind of take this if you want to do kind of my style or like take your own. And also, it took me years to figure out my style of sleep, morning routines, of like how I think about sleep. So know that you get to find your own rhythm with it as well. Just because I do certain things doesn't mean like y'all need to. I do suggest you try different things, see what feels good to you, see what you're kind of pulled towards trying for your evening and morning and sleep. But ultimately, it's what feels the best for you and what you get to do and implement into your life. So I want you all to either write down or type in your phone or whatever, like what time you want to start winding down. If it's an hour before bed or 30 minutes before bed, you don't have to say the exact time, like 10 p.m., but say 30 minutes before bed or an hour before bed, I'm going to start winding down. And I want you to write down what you're going to do to wind down or give yourself all the options of what you could do to wind down, right? So could be yoga, stretching, changing the music, changing the lighting, XYZ, right? One thing I will say that's a non-negotiable is to reduce your blue light exposure. So your screen time. This is super duper important because once blue light hits our retina, which is our eye, like the middle of your eye, that part, your subconscious mind, your body thinks it's still daylight and you're still going to be operating on your higher frequency operations. Like it's daytime, we're going to work, we're thinking about this and we're doing that and we're go and we're stressed out, and your body's not going to think it's bedtime. So there's a couple of things I'm going to drop in the chat that really help me with blue light blockers. Of course, you can buy literal blue light blocking glasses, which I highly recommend you do. I wear mine every night about an hour before bed. I wear my blue light blockers, little glasses. And then I actually have, if I'm on the computer, even before it's an hour before bed, if I'm working on my computer at night, I have this app called Flux on my computer that is it's an app where it changes your blue light setting on your computer and you can actually set the timing. And so I actually have it to kind of closely match to the sunlight, the sunrise, the sunset. And I actually have a little bit of Flux on all the time, like 24/7. I have Flux on my computer. It just changes when it gets darker in the evening. So I'm just going to put the link in the chat. So I suggest you get this on your computer. And then in your phone settings, you also can change when your phone goes to like warm light mode, right? So I highly recommend you set that to match like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or sometime in the evening before you wind down. So this already gets your body ready for like, oh, the lights are dimming, like I'm not getting as much blue light exposure to my eyes. Your body's like, oh, means it's time for bed, right? So that's like a non-negotiable. But otherwise, the things that you want to do to wind down, write that out, okay? When you're done, let me know. And if there's any questions about that, let me know as well. And just in case anyone's wondering, I recommend an hour wind down time, but that can be a lot for people. So just start with like 30 minutes. And then you can always work your way up and know that this number doesn't have to be the exact same every night. As you progress in this, you will need less and less time to get your body down to that wind down state. What I've experienced personally, this is my personal experience, but because I've built that subconscious pattern and like that hardwire, like tying my shoe, my body actually can get into sleep mode really quick. Like it's sometimes I'm like, oh shit, like I only need like 10 minutes to actually get my body to sleep mode. Now that took me a long time, but know that if it's 30 minutes one night, maybe 40 minutes one night, it doesn't matter as long as you're doing that routine to lay down that hardware, That's what's important. So that could take you 20 minutes some nights when you have less time, or 30 minutes, right? So somewhere in that range, but doing it is the really important piece. Are we good? Can we move on?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Okay.
Yep.
So now that we have what we're doing in the evening, when you want to wind down, what's important, blah, blah, blah. I want you to start telling yourself different things in the evening. So I'm curious if anyone wants to share. What are some of the things that come up in the evening when you're getting ready for bed? Are you like, oh man, like I'm gonna have such a bad sleep tonight, or like, oh, I hope I can sleep? Like, what is some of the narrative that comes up when you think about sleep in the evening?
Personally, for me, I think I tend to go into feelings emotionally of loneliness and like comfort, like trying to soothe and find comfort in my evenings. Yeah.
And so is that something that affects you from sleeping? Because can you share more?
Yeah. I think it prevents me from going to sleep, initiating sleep, because like it's almost like I'm scared of the dark kind of thing. But yeah, it just stems from like knowing that it'd be more comfy if I had someone in my bed, but I don't. So then I kind of get like a disappointment, I guess, going to bed alone,
Yeah,
per
okay.
se.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Anyone else want to share some of the thoughts that come up around sleep?
I think that because I do have a tendency to like use my phone, go on social media before I go to bed, I sort of get these feelings of anxiety. Um, yeah, I think that's what it is for me, is like I know that I shouldn't be going on social media, and it feels like I almost am preventing myself from falling asleep because like the blue light and all these things, it's just like there's so much circling around in my brain, and using those platforms before going to sleep, it just brings on a sense of anxiety for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and is there something specifically that you're like thinking about? Is like, oh, I shouldn't be on my phone at night, or like, oh, like I'm feeling anxious because XYZ.
Yeah, I think it's just like comparison as well, right? Like there's so much to do with social media, and just like I think that's just kind of what it is for me, is like trying to not compare myself to what I see on social media, and then also having these ideas of like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be reading a book instead, or I should be doing my meditations. And then I kind of just get into the cycle of like, oh, but I'm stuck on my phone now. I don't know, don't feel sleepy. And yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Anyone else want to share? Okay. If anything else comes up, you can drop in the chat or let me know. So basically, and I'm not going to tell you what exactly to say, because this is something that has to really resonate with you, but I want you to flip that script. So whatever that is that's coming up for you, like flip that script. For me, it was, oh, I can never fall asleep. Like I always toss and turn. I'm a bad sleeper, blah, blah, blah. Like I always get up to pee at night, because I used to. And so I was like implanting these things. And I truly believe in like the more you repeat something to yourself, the more you're going to create it. And so I was just like creating shitty sleeps. So like, oh my God, I can't sleep. Oh, wow. Oh. And I wouldn't be able to sleep. It's like, why can't I sleep? Lying in bed. And so I think it's important to, yeah, flip the script. So I started telling myself like, okay, well, I want to sleep better. If I do this before I go to bed, I will improve my sleep. Which is, that's true. Like the things you say have to kind of ring true to you. So I'm like, yeah, if I calm down and I breathe and I meditate before bed, I'm going to sleep better. And therefore I did, right? And so taking that script, whatever you're saying to yourself, and flipping it into something that's super digestible for your subconscious mind, because it's not going to ring true when it's like, I'm going to have the best sleep ever. And oh my God, not hit snooze ever again. Like your brain's gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, that's a lie. Like, bitch, you're going to, So just saying something that's like a little more digestible. It's like, hey, okay, if I start getting off my phone 30 minutes before bed and reading or calming down, I'm going to improve my sleep. You're not saying that you're going to have the best sleep ever. You are saying you're going to improve your sleep, which is like digestible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Amazing. So take a couple seconds if you want to write down like some of the opposite of that narrative for yourself. And then when you're done, let me know. We have one more piece and we're off to have better sleeps. Wow.
Mm.
All right, can we move on? How are we doing?
I'm good.
Okay, I got one.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Muy bien. Lastly is the morning piece. So we already talked about this. So you all kind of know what you want to do in the morning, what makes you feel good and excited. So take a note, and it can be more than one thing, honestly. Like I have kind of like my evening routine. I have my morning routine that's like, okay, I like doing this and this and this and this. And I get up in the morning, I'm like, what do I want to do today, Pearl? I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this. And then we do it. So I just kind of feel that out. But so in the morning, whether or not you have an alarm or not, it's we get out of bed right away. Okay. Maybe it's
Mhm.
not like right away, maybe it's a couple minutes after. When you start implanting that seed, and again, I say we, but you can say I get out of bed, whatever it is, but we get out of bed right away. We do not hit snooze. Okay. And that's just kind of a new thing that you start to tell yourself. Like we get out of bed right away. We do our routine. We get into, the things we like to do first thing in the morning. We tell ourselves nice things because we love ourselves or because, that 15 minutes is that prime time, like whatever you want to tell yourself that helps you. So that's what we're going to do. And then you're going to do that action. And that's really it. But it's more about the mindset around the morning and doing the thing that you like to set off your morning. And then from there, it's a domino effect, right? So however you start your morning is how the rest of your day is going to go most of the time, because you get to start off on a higher note. And so, yeah, taking a second to, if you haven't already, kind of write out the things you want to do in the morning that make you feel excited, and just writing like the things that you don't want to hit snooze, like we're going to get out of bed right away, we're going to do XYZ, we're going to tell myself that I love myself and I'm a bad bitch, like I don't know, whatever you want to tell yourself. But like I look at in the morning and I'm like, yeah, Pearl, you rock, get it, girl. Like every morning I have a pep talk. And so maybe how can you like hype yourself up, because our brain likes pleasurable things. It likes things that are positive. So the more you can do things that are really positive in the morning, the more you're going to want to get up. And so maybe tomorrow might not be like, oh my God, I got up right away. But the more you do it, the more your brain's like, oh, we want to do this. Wow, we had a dance party. Wow, we stretched. Wow, we celebrated ourselves. Wow, we said nice things. Oh my gosh. Yay. Yeah. Okay. So and that's really the last piece. And so I want you all to take action on it, implement it for a few days, but really your whole life. Like this is something we do forever. And obviously, it's going to tweak, things are going to change, life happens. But as long as you can stay to at least one or two things before bed and in the morning, things are really going to start to solidify in your brain, and you're going to start to have better sleeps and get up sooner. And if things start to shift, please share them with me. I love to hear your wins, or share them in the Discord group, in the wins channel. And yeah, this is a great session. Is there any last questions? How was this for you all? Are you all feeling good? Is that supportive?
Yeah, I definitely made a
Yeah.
lot of notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. Appreciate it.
Amazing. Of course, fam. That's why we're here. We're here every week doing things. Any requests for next week's topic? Any things you want to learn about?
I guess maybe like, because we're implementing new things and routines and things, maybe some things around motivation and self-discipline to be able to actually get down to in it, and like longevity of it. Because I could do so good for a week and then forget. Months go by and you're like, oh yeah, I had this routine that was working for me.
That is so good. That's literally like a whole course. Whenever I talk about motivation, it's like multiple videos, but they'll just be like a shorter version.
A micro one about focusing on just
yeah.
a certain topic.
Oh my, yeah, it's amazing.
That's cool.
So many good points.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any requests?
Yeah, no, I love that, the motivation piece, because it's something I struggle with as well. I had something and then I forgot.
Well, if it comes back, just DM me, okay?
Okay, yeah, I'll share it. Oh, I do have something related back to the sleep thing. I have found something that actually works for me in terms of waking up, because I've always not liked having an alarm going off, and it like jerks me awake. So you can actually get these light bulbs that you can put in any lamp, and they like color shift. where you can like put a setting on your phone to turn on slowly at like a warm color at a certain time. And I find that's like enough to wake me up, and it's much more like nice to wake up to. So anyway, that's a little tip for anyone.
Oh, that sounds nice. Can you
Interested.
send
And you can
the
just
link?
yeah, you can literally buy them at like Canadian Tire.
Oh, but like,
Sweet.
Like,
does it work in any
yeah,
lamp?
it's a standard light bulb.
That's lovely. I love that idea.
Smart bulbs.
Yeah, it's like a smart bulb. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Amazing. Well, fam, I hope that was helpful. If anything else comes up that you want me to talk about in any upcoming weeks, just DM me. This will be in the replay section for anyone that's watching the replay in our Discord channel. And yeah, this was amazing. Go enjoy the rest of your day or your evening. And I appreciate you all hopping on. And I'll talk to you all very soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
girl.
Thanks, girl.
Thank you.
You're great.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.